All right, here we are, Wildlife 101. I'm going to give everybody a moment to jump on. If you see the chat feature down below or above, just depending on where you keep your display, you're welcome to let us know where you're calling in from. Are you watching us from your kitchen, from your property? Are you at work? Maybe you're out of state. That's kind of cool. Oh, Jasper. Got a Jasper, Georgia.
Ella J, Canton, Columbus.
Midtown. Chad from
Look at my
Milton.
Canton peeps.
Well, I'm really loving what I'm seeing. Cool. So we're all over the place.
Jacksonville.
We're definitely not talking about alligators today, but maybe another conversation. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started because we're a couple minutes in, and I know people will probably come on at their own time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wildlife 101. It's our new webinar series. I'm Ranger Jen, well, affectionately known as Ranger Jen. I'm actually Jen Young, and I work for the city of Milton, and my job is your outdoor recreation supervisor. And so I want to say they called me Ranger Jen because it's probably the most common way when you see somebody wearing a hat and a logo and a badge in the middle of the woods. That's really where I coined the name. So yeah, my job for the city of Milton is to engage you all in wildlife in the outdoors, and that could be either here virtually or even in the woods. So you'll see me out on any one of the 11 trails in Milton. There's some 1,100 acres, I think we've counted now, of property. And it's my job to be a really great steward for the citizens and the taxpayers that entrust us city employees with their land. So some of the cool things that I get to do in Milton property, on Milton property, is teach people to fish. I think most of the time people figure it out pretty quickly, and I spend probably 90% of that class taking fish off the hook and rebaiting the hook. So we're also learning a little bit about fish while we're out there. Our backpacking basics. This is the level up from, are you a hiker, or do you love to car camp and you want something a little more challenging, or you're interested in engaging in the backwoods, which can be intimidating or scary for somebody who's never done that. So we walk you through the steps, we take you out on the trail, and we kind of show you how to do it. And then the first program that I started when I joined the team for Parks and Rec was the Junior Ranger program. So we wrote a book that is designed for Milton parks, but it's really transferable to any park. Because, wildlife can be seen anywhere. It might just look a little different. A natural habitat is anywhere, but it might look a little different. Kids go through that program on their own, it's kind of self-guided. And then they say the pledge with Ranger Jen, get their badge, and you're an honorary member of our conservation team. And then the last one, which you're all a part of, is our Wildlife 101 series. This is actually our first presentation, so give us all your feedback at the end. You're going to have an opportunity to do that. And also we look forward to you engaging in the conversation as well. And I'm going to go over few housekeeping rules. So we are being recorded, and this is going to be stored on the miltonga.gov web address. And so you can go back and look at these resources, and then you can also, in the future, go back and see any of the ones that you miss. right? So we want everybody to have access to this really great information and be able to engage with our speakers, even if they can't be here today. We have a question comment area, so you can either use the Q&A or you can use the, you can use the chat box as you've already done. And if you have any questions for our presenters or myself, I'm only going to be answering questions that have to do with Milton as it pertains to our parks, but our presenters are going to answer any of the questions you have about the presentation. So feel free to put those questions in there. They may pull some throughout the presentation and they may hold them to the end, but just know your question and answer will be in there. A few of us will be monitoring that. So again, if you're having any trouble or you want to better understand something, put it in that. And at the end, you're going to have a survey. We really encourage you to fill out those 5 questions, answer those 5 questions, because we need your feedback. We want to know, what are you looking for in the future? What other things do you want to learn? Give our presenters really great kudos, because not only are they having full-time jobs in their real life and then they volunteer full-time, they're also doing this voluntarily, and that's to help you guys better understand and be great stewards for our wildlife. So please give them thumbs up whenever you can. And my information's here at the bottom. So if you want to email me any ideas or give feedback, or you have questions, you're a Milton resident and you want to better understand something about your parks, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, I'm going to hand this over to the people who deserve all the time and attention, and that is Heather Thomas and Tiffany Green. They solely, I want to say, operate this really incredible Georgia Wildlife Network, and we're grateful that they're here today. When I caught wind, actually, I'll be very transparent, I have used their website before and it was extremely helpful. And so I encourage you all after the presentation's over to go to their website, get familiar. There's tons of resources there. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on to these wonderful ladies.
Hey, everybody. My name is Heather Thomas. I am the executive director for Georgia Wildlife Network. Not going to spend too much time talking about myself today. I do want to introduce my partner in crime, though, Tiffany Green. Tiffany, say hi.
Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight.
Tiffany and I, we lead Georgia Wildlife Network, but we do it with a very large team of people across the state of Georgia. We have a lot of amazing volunteers, some of which I see are joining us tonight. We have some of our rehabbers joining us tonight. It's so great to see everyone here and support, and we're all doing this for the same cause, for the wildlife in Georgia, but it is a team effort, and we cannot do it without these amazing people by our sides, and having their partnership. So we are excited to be here tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to join us and learn a little bit, hopefully, about wildlife, maybe learn something that you didn't know before. Tiffany, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm excited just to kick it off.
All right, let's do it. Well, let me figure out how to share my screen and we will get started. All right, can you guys see me?
Yeah, you're good, Heather.
Okay. All right. So first of all, who is Georgia Wildlife Network? If you've never interacted with us, if you don't know anything about who we are or why you're here, we were founded in 2021. We are a network of animal lovers, basically devoted to the safe transfer and care of injured and orphaned wildlife across the state of Georgia. We only handle animals in the state of Georgia. We are not allowed to cross state lines with wildlife. We assist in connecting the public to licensed rehabbers and facilities. And we also assist with transportation of wildlife to licensed rehabbers when necessary. We have over 300 volunteer transporters across the state of Georgia currently. We are a nonprofit 501c3. We do not receive any pay or government funding. We handle well over 1,000 cases a month during peak baby season. Actually, last year during peak baby season, we exceeded 1,500 cases a month. We were getting 60, 65 calls a day. So we used to have, very set hotline volunteer hours, but now I really have to say that our hotline hours vary a little bit based on volunteer availability. For some reason, it's difficult to get people to want to volunteer and do this for free and take 60 calls a day routing people on where to go with wildlife. So we have about 6 or 7 hotline volunteers, and it's a lot of shifts to cover. We were trying to cover 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. We find out that some days we're a little bit short staffed, so we can't quite make that. We rely a lot on our website. And we do all of our messaging through text when you contact us for assistance with wildlife. And the reason for that is because we can get through many more messages via text than if we're on the phone with someone. When you get on the phone with people, they like to tell you a story along with how they found the animal or how they had a squirrel back in 1994 and what its name was, and all the fun things. And we love hearing the stories. But when you're taking that many calls a day, we got to kind of keep it streamlined and just get to the point of what's going on, where's the animal located, and get you in touch with the closest wildlife rehabilitator in your area. So, what do you do if you find what appears to be injured or orphan wildlife? We want to start here. First and foremost, you always want to consult with an expert before handling wildlife. I would say probably 40%, that's a guess. 40% of wildlife babies that we get calls about each year are abducted by well meaning people. We get people that call and they're like, "Oh, I was out in my front yard and I found this cute little baby bird. I brought him in. I gave him some scrambled eggs and bird seed. What do I do with him?" And, chances are it was a fledgling and his mom was taking care of him on the ground. And now he has to go to a rehabber because maybe he's been fed the wrong things or it's too late to reunite with mom. So we always want you to connect with us or a licensed rehabber before you make the decision to intervene, so that we can try to guide you. If we aren't sure, we will connect you with rehabbers to help make that determination. Probably the trickiest one that sometimes takes a little bit of time to work out is going to be fawns. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. But just we beg of you, please do not intervene with wildlife unless you are 100% certain the animal needs help. Obviously, if it's bleeding, it can't fly, it's been hit by a car, there's something traumatic that's happened with that animal, obviously it's going to need help. So that's a little bit different than if you just think it's been orphaned. If you find wildlife with obvious injuries, we may ask if you're able to help us safely contain that animal. We're not going to ask you to do that with adult deer or rabies vector species. And we might ask you to do it with a hawk or an owl or something like that, which might sound a little intimidating, but we can walk you through it and give you some tips and tricks. And if you're not comfortable, then we have a team of volunteers that come out and do that sort of thing. But it's based on volunteer availability, which again we'll talk about a little bit more. Any animal that has been in a cat's mouth needs to get to a rehabber immediately, even if you do not see puncture wounds. So, cat saliva is toxic to small mammals. So, if an outdoor cat, a feral cat, has picked up a baby squirrel, a baby bunny, it's going to need antibiotics or it will not survive. It doesn't mean that it's going to die immediately in your hands, but in the next 24 hours, that animal is probably not going to make it without antibiotics. So we need to get it to a licensed rehabber who has the medication to help that animal get better, and so we could get it back out in the wild and get it released. If you do need to contain an animal, we recommend using a ventilated box. This is going to be something that most people have on hand at all times, just a box. You know, if you get Amazon deliveries at your house the way that we do, we always have a box and we have a variety of sizes. Punch some holes in it, place a sheet or a blanket on the bottom, and you could place whatever little creature it is in the bottom of that and await on transport. Or if you're transporting yourself, just make sure the box is secure and you should be good to go. Protect yourself. Never approach an animal that's acting unusual. If it shows signs of a disease, if it's foaming at the mouth, walking in circles, having seizures, you know, discharge from the nose, eyes, things like that. Look, it doesn't automatically mean that that animal has rabies. It could be distemper. It could be that the animal was hit by a car and it's head trauma. But we really need you to reach out to DNR or a licensed rehabber to make that determination and see if any kind of intervention should be made, or if we need to call someone out to help us contain it and get it taken care of. If you find adult rabies vector species that need help, never ever handle. Please do not try to pick up the animal. Contact an RVS licensed rehabber or DNR for advice. If you pick up an animal, a baby raccoon, and you're like, oh, it's so cute, I want to snuggle it, and you give it kisses, and that animal bites you, even if there is no reason to believe whatsoever that that animal is sick or that it has rabies, we have to report that to the health department. The health department will send someone out to pick up that baby raccoon, and the baby raccoon has to be sent off to have rabies testing, which means that the animal has to be euthanized in order for that testing to take place. And the health department is going to want you to go ahead and begin rabies shots if you get bitten, even before it's confirmed that the animal has rabies. These shots are very costly. We have had this happen where someone has contained a raccoon and they had the very best of intentions. We advise them, don't feed, don't put your hand in the cage, don't give water, just keep it contained until we get it to the rehabber in the morning. We found out the next day that someone had actually reached inside the cage to give him some food. The individual was bitten by the raccoon and it had to be sent off for testing. And as it turned out, it was rabies positive. So he had to go through a series of rabies vaccinations, which they're not cheap and they're not fun to go through. And we want to avoid that. So please do not try to handle these animals. Just be safe. Give us a call. Again, it doesn't mean that they're sick. We just have to take every precaution for you and for the animal. Never, ever, ever feed wildlife food, water, or milk. We hear the craziest things about what wildlife is fed while people are holding it. I could give you a million different examples. Some of the most common are, kitten formula, puppy milk, breast milk, scrambled eggs, Gatorade. We hear all kinds of things, and if you give an animal the wrong kind of food, it can be fatal to them. Even just the wrong kind of milk can be fatal to wildlife. So please, please, please don't ever feed these animals when you find them. You want to speak with a licensed wildlife professional and only feed if they instruct you to do so and exactly what they instruct you to feed them. One way that we try to explain this is if you are in a head-on collision car accident and the ambulance stops to pick you up, I promise you, you are not going to be in the back of that ambulance saying, hey, will you swing by Arby's? I'd like a burger. Same thing here. Like their priority is going to be getting you to the hospital, getting you checked out in ER, making sure that you're okay, that you're good to eat, and that, airways are clear, all of the above. The same applies with wildlife. We really need to examine that animal, or the rehabbers need to examine that animal and make sure that it is good and see if it needs to be hydrated before it's fed, make sure the body temperature is okay. There's a lot of things that they do, even including weight, to see how much they need to feed it before they just start giving the animal fluids. So that is rule number one. Also, keep in mind it's illegal to treat or raise wildlife in the state of Georgia without a license. You have to get permitted through DNR. You have to go through a home inspection to make sure that you have the proper facilities and ensure that whoever you're handing off wildlife to is a licensed professional. If you post on Facebook and say, "Look at this cute little opossum that I found," you're going to have 47 people that have raised an opossum once and want to take care of that baby. But if they're not a licensed professional, they probably don't have access to the proper medications. They may not know that this animal as a baby is actually tube fed, not bottle fed. It has to go to a licensed professional, and we need your help in ensuring that that's happening during handoff. When transporting wildlife, make sure it's kept in a quiet, dark place away from pets and people. People like to show their kids. I get it. You know, you want your kid to be able to see this animal, which it might seem like it's very calm. It might be letting you hold it, but it's most likely in shock, and animals can die from stress. So we really want to avoid those interactions with humans as much as possible once it's been contained. Always wear gloves when handling wildlife and call a licensed rehabber immediately. So those are the very first things that you're going to do if you find what you think might be injured or orphan wildlife. Tiffany, do we have any questions yet? I'll take a pause for a second.
No, we're doing great. We've just had some small ones that I've responded to, so we can keep moving along.
Okay, sounds good. Y'all feel free to ask questions as we go. I'll check in periodically. Okay, so transportation, Georgia Wildlife Network, we offer a transport service. However, it's based 100% on volunteer availability in your area on that day. So sometimes we get lucky. We put a call out for help with our network and we might have someone there in 30 minutes. Other times, you might be in a black hole in Georgia where we don't have any transporters, and it could take hours or even days to find someone who is able to come out there and pick up that animal to help. If we're taking 60, 65 calls a day, we just don't have that many people to do the transports. So the first thing we're going to ask you is if you are able to transport the animal. If you're not, you know, check with friends, family, neighbors, see if there's anyone available that is able to help you out. And if they can, we greatly appreciate it. If they can't, we certainly understand that there are going to be times and scenarios where you just can't get it done. You know, you don't have a vehicle or you're sick or you have kids, things going on. We understand, and that's why we offer transport. We're happy to do it when we can, but just understand that it might not be an instantaneous thing. Wildlife rehabbers cannot come out and pick up animals from your location. Most of our rehabbers have up to 100 animals in their care at any one time, especially the small mammal rehabbers. And feedings of some of those species require around the clock care. You know, they're feeding them, God, with baby birds, some of them have to be fed every like 30 minutes. They're starting over. They get to the end of the line and it's time to start again. So they can't go out and pick up these animals. All of the money spent from a rehabber comes out of their pocket or is received as donations to their facility. They don't get paid. There's no government funding for what they do. We are all volunteers. Georgia Wildlife Network, the rehabbers, the transporters, none of us have any sort of pay for what we do. It's all just for the love of animals. So now we're going to kind of go into some species facts, some things that maybe you guys might not know about different little creatures. And we've included some furry little friends that we've met along the way for pictures here. Um, and we're going to try to share a few fun facts with you. So it's a myth that mama birds abandon their babies if you touch them. If you find a featherless bird on the ground and know which nest it fell from, you can simply place it back inside. Mama doesn't care that you touched it. She's going to come back and take care of that baby. You can also use a makeshift nest, like a hanging basket is ideal if you have any old, hanging potted plants or anything. You can put some pine straw on the bottom of it and hang it from a nearby branch. You'll want to make sure that you see mama periodically coming back to visit. Here's a fun fact for you. If you go out and check and you want to make sure that mama's feeding it, as long as you see that the bird has pooped on the outside edges of the nest, it means that mama is coming to feed it. If you are not seeing that, then chances are the baby's not being fed, the reunite's not working, and at that point, we might need to take it into a rehabber. If it's been out of the nest for a long time and the body temperature is cold, then we're not going to be able to reunite it. We can try putting it on a heating pad and raising its body temperature and trying again. We want to make every effort that we can to reunite these babies whenever we can. Um, and never feed baby birds. Not all diets are the same. Not all baby birds eat mealworms or earthworms, and they can choke very, very easily. They have small airways. And if you put food in their mouth that is too big for them, they're going to choke and they just die right then and there because they've lost their airway. So please don't ever try to feed a baby bird. It's very, very tedious. They take very tiny bites. Keep in mind their moms chew up the worms and then spit it into their mouth. So unless you're that devoted, and you want to do the same, then please do not feed the baby birds and never put water in their mouth for the same reason. It can also cause them to choke. Once these babies are fully feathered, like the first photo here in the middle, these guys are called fledglings. He has all of his feathers. He's still a tiny little dude, but he has hopped out of the nest and he is jumping around on the ground. And this is when most people become engaged and they snatch them up and say, "Oh my God, this baby bird fell out of the nest and it can't fly. We need to help it." We actually need to just stand back and let mama take care of it. So mom's watching it on the ground and she will come and go. If you watch from an inside window, you'll be able to see that she's coming down and she is feeding that baby. That baby's probably hiding under a bush or, you know, dancing around a little area, and he'll start making sounds, letting mama know he's hungry, and she'll come down and feed him. This process usually lasts for a few days while she is teaching him to fly. So it's an essential part of him learning how to be a bird. We get a lot of people who call in and say, "Well, I have an outdoor cat. This isn't going to work out. You need to come get the bird." We need you to put your cat inside, move them to a different area. Really, we need to coexist with wildlife where we can. We can't uproot wildlife because of outdoor cats as frequently as people would like us to. If the bird is outside of the nest, not fully feathered, you could certainly reach out for help, reach out for guidance. If you've seen a little guy on the ground and you're not seeing the mom, then definitely give us a call and we'll try to help coach you through it. But typically, if you see them fully feathered, they're hopping around, they're interacting, you're going to see mom close by and they don't need our help. Possums. Female possums have a pouch in their belly, and in their belly, they have 13 tubes that baby opossums are attached to. Those tubes go directly into the belly of the baby Joey. And when the babies are brought into the rehabbers, they have to be tube fed because they don't know how to suckle. They can't take a bottle. So we'll have people call us and say, "Oh my God, I found a baby possum and I'm trying to give it milk from this bottle and it's not taking it." Well, that's why they don't know how to take from a bottle. They're used to having this tube that is directly inside of them, and that's how they get the mama's milk. If you ever find a juvenile possum on its own, like the size of the one that's in this photo, it needs help. Possum moms do not come back for their babies if they lose one. Usually they don't know they lost one. because they might have, 10, 12 babies on their back and they don't know that they lost one a couple blocks back. So they're not going back for it. If you see one of these little guys, it needs help. We need to get it to a rehabber so that they could take over care for it.
Hey,
Now
Heather.
I am one of those. Yeah.
Hey, just want to jump in. So I just realized we've got Nancy from Wild Nest on the line with us tonight. And so Nancy just wanted to include that water is more dangerous than food for birds. Baby birds should be able to take a piece of food no bigger than their beak.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm glad you're here. Can we unmute Nancy? Is there anything else she wants to add? Or she could type it to you, Tiff. Please jump in here, Nancy. Add anything that you would like, or any of our rehabbers that are on tonight. Please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, we're actually trying to see if we can change it to everyone.
Yeah, so
Um,
if I'm just gonna interject for a second, sorry guys. If any of your rehabbers have additional comments, just make sure it goes in the chat under everyone and not to the panelists, and then they can share their words of wisdom to the whole crew.
I
Oh,
did
perfect.
just
Okay.
unmute Nancy.
Oh, good. Nancy, hi. Do you
Hi,
want to jump in?
can you hear me?
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you for
great.
joining.
Oh, my pleasure. You're doing great. I love what you're hearing. We have additional information on our website. That's always a great place to send people if they'll go and look at it. So yeah, I mean, there will be times when we do ask people to feed birds and stuff, but what you're saying, everything it's really great. And I really appreciate you doing this. And just trying to get ready for baby season coming up. So yeah, I think we're ready. Yeah, fruit. Always push fruit. You can chop up fruit and give it to baby birds, and almost every baby. And fruit is great because it has moisture. Because they're always worried that they need water. Fruit has moisture. It's got sugar and calories. It's a great in between, and almost anyone has some kind of fruit. They've got melons or berries or even some citrus. I have a bunch of Orioles at my house that are loving my mandarin oranges I put out. So little tiny pieces of fruit with some tweezers is probably the safest and a really good bet for most birds, except doves. But we don't want to get into doves; they're just freaks. So
Thank you, Nancy. Nancy runs Wild Nest out of Decatur. I do not know how she does it. I have been inside and seen her operation, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with baby birds. And she will have like nest, 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 and they're all labeled, with what birds they are. Each bird has its own individual tag where they log the species, the weight when it comes in, all of this information on each and every tiny little songbird. You've got chimney swifts in the background, like making a heck of a racket, and they have people that just go down the line and give this bird a bite, this bird a bite, this bird a bite, this bird a bite. And by the time that they get to the end of this chain, it is time to start again, back at the beginning.
12
It
hours a
is
day, every day,
12
12 hours
hours
a
a
day, every
day.
day.
It is crazy to see in person. I don't know how they do it. And
Lots of
when
help.
Nancy hits a point where she says we are full, we know that we are in trouble. There's only a couple of songbird rehabbers in Atlanta area, North Georgia, and I mean they are full to the max. And like I said, a lot of times, sadly, it's because the babies were abducted and
Yeah.
didn't necessarily need the help, but once they've been abducted, then we got to take them in. And we will never walk you through how to feed it. We will leave that to Nancy and to Erilyn when we send you to
Right.
them, and we will let them walk you through what you should do. I know myself, I've cut up the teeny tiniest pieces of watermelon I can find and use a toothpick and give these little guys some food, because that's what Nancy trained me to do if we can't get them transported fast enough. But even that, I prefer to get them out of my hands and get them to Nancy quickly so that she can take over. So thank you for everything that you do, Nancy. We
You're
are
welcome. And
forever in
thank
debt to
you.
you.
You and your network are invaluable that, yeah. So thank you as well. Takes a
Thank
village.
you so much. It truly does take a village. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so possums, the only other thing I was going to add is, man, possums get hit a lot by cars. They do. And I'm not asking you to be this crazy person, but I'm admitting that I'm this crazy person that if I see a possum that you could tell has been freshly hit on the road, I keep gloves in the center console of my car. I know this sounds like I'm a lunatic. It's fine. And I will pick up the possum, move it off the side of the road, flip it over, and look for babies. They have a very telltale pouch, especially when there's babies inside. You could see the belly moving. If you see the belly moving, you can call us, find a rehabber near you, and you can actually take the baby still inside the mom. Just pick up the mom, put her in a box or a container of some type, and just transport them that way. You don't have to remove them from her pouch because, again, keep in mind they're attached by a tube. So if for some reason you need to remove them from that tube, we can walk you through how to do that, but we don't usually suggest it. You definitely don't want to cut those away from the mom with them still being attached inside the baby's mouth. So we typically ask that you would just transport the whole animal with the baby still inside. And we just saw our first case of pinky babies yesterday, actually, inside a possum, and they are teeny, teeny, teeny tiny when they are born. It's crazy how small they are. So they're in the pouch for a little bit before we even know that they're in there. But if you see one belly moving, give us a call. Let's try to get those babies some help, even if mama is beyond saving. Okay, bunny nests. Bunny nests are under shallow grass pine straw. Please check your lawn before mowing. We have a lot of horrific accidents every year with bunnies that I'm not going to go into detail on. Mama bunnies only visit the nest twice a day, usually before dawn and around dusk. So don't assume just because you don't see mama coming to the nest that she's not coming in for feedings. Baby bunnies, when they are taken from their mom and taken into captivity for a rehabber, they do not do well. It's like maybe 10 to 15% survival rate. So it's not good. The odds are not with them. They stress very, very easily. So much as the sound of a dog barking inside your home can cause the baby to have a heart attack and die. So please, please, please do not abduct baby bunnies. If you have picked up one without knowing, you call us. We will try to coach you through how to put it back in the nest as long as it's not cold, it's not injured, it's not covered in ants or anything like that. Again, mama does not care that you have touched her baby bunny. We just want to get it back in the yard, or wherever you found it. We know that you have dogs that run through your yard. People pay for fenced in yards so that you can let your dog roam. We totally get it. And look, wildlife doesn't care that you have dogs. So they're not always the most convenient about where they put their babies. But what you can do, this is one of our favorite tricks, is you can place a laundry basket upside down over the nest with a couple of like metal stakes that you would use for a tent or tomato plants or something like that, and secure the laundry basket and then cut a small tiny hole in the side so that mama can come and go out of that area without the dogs being able to reach the babies. We recommend this all the time. People who do it are like, oh my God, that was the coolest thing because I got to see the babies, like, come out of the nest and started venturing out. And I got to be a part of this. And it's really neat. So if you're able to do that, we really encourage you to do that instead of uprooting the baby, sending them to a rehabber where it decreases their chances of living. Deer, here's fun fact. So deer, like you could see in this picture, this is actually a picture of a deer that we had a call about that had a broken front leg. It was literally hanging. We think that it had been stuck in a fence. And the person called us and we told them, leave it. The animal can't be rehabbed. It's an adult deer. It will learn to acclimate to the injury. And I think that they probably thought that we were crazy. We didn't know what we were talking about. And, it might get infected. There are other things that can happen. I'm not going to say that it always works out this way. But in this situation, the leg actually fell off, and this deer, this was the second year that they saw her after the incident, and she actually carried a full term pregnancy on 3 legs. So, if a deer gets hit by a car, don't assume automatically we need to put it down. If it's off the side of the road, as long as it's, not blocking traffic and it's trying to get up, it may just need some time to catch its bearings. I mean, I know I would if I got hit by a car. If it's able to stand, walk, even with a limp, or you can see that it's trying to get its legs underneath it to stand up, we usually suggest giving it a little bit of time. Depending on how close to the road, depends on how much time we give it. If it's in someone's yard, it might be a couple of hours. If it's right next to the road, we run a risk of it running into traffic if it does get up and panic. So each case might be a little bit different. We're going to ask you to text us photos, kind of figure out what's going on. Adult deer can't be rehabbed, unfortunately. They're very, very strong animals, and there's no way to safely transport them. I can't pick up a buck and toss it in the back of my forerunner. And they're difficult to safely treat in captivity because they're very wild, obviously, and they are not used to people. So you can't get close to it to treat the injuries that it has. They will repeatedly ram themselves into fences or walls when they are scared. It's just not safe. So unfortunately, there's not a good way to rehab them. We really try, if we think that there's any chance of them recovering, to let them be. But if the animal has multiple broken legs, a broken back, broken hip, you can tell that this animal is really, really damaged beyond repair, then it's going to need to be put down. And at that point, we call DNR, we call the local PD, and we ask them to come out and at least not let this animal continue to suffer. Sarah, you're on the phone with us. You are a fawn rehabber. Do you have anything to add with this about the deer?
Right. Can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hello.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Oh, no, you're good. I think you just about covered it. I mean, besides the fact that, the fawns that are not with their moms are probably not abandoned. And when
Oh,
you
we're getting
abduct,
there. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, a healthy fawn takes up a spot for a fawn that actually needs help. So they're great to watch from a distance and usually don't need intervention.
1,000%. I think, let's see, are fawns on the next? Yes, here we have fawns. So
There you
if
go.
you want to stay off mute in case there's anything that I missed here,
Okay.
fawns are the animal that we see abducted the most often. People are like, "Oh, look, cute! It's Bambi. Let me bring it inside my home and snuggle it, and give it milk and take care of it." Adults leave their baby fawns during the day while they graze. Usually, this is because of two things. One, they don't want to draw in predators to the scent. And two, babies can't keep up with moms and the amount of walking that they do during the day grazing. They don't go very far. They're always within earshot of hearing their babies call out to them and periodically checking in on them. They may even pop in for a feeding and you not even have time to realize that they were there. They leave their fawns in very strange places, and this is what usually confuses people. They'll leave them by a mailbox. They leave them by the side of your house. They put them in areas that they deem safe because it's out of the area of where predators are. They don't realize sometimes that, humans can be the ones that cause them not to be safe, they view those areas as being out of the woods, away from coyotes, away from things that could pick up their babies. So they might even return them there more days in a row. I had one case where I think it was 6 days in a row that the mom brought the baby back, and she actually had cameras, so she would see the mom walk the baby to the same place every day. And it's like talking to your toddler: sit down, be quiet, right here, don't move from this space, and I'll be back to get you. That's basically what they do. So, if you're not certain that the baby is injured, if it's not lying next to its deceased mom, please reach out to a licensed fawn rehabber before you approach the animal. We don't want people going and snuggling and picking up these animals. It does put human scent on them. The animals can die due to stress. Deer and fawns can die from capture myopathy, which is similar to having a heart attack due to stress. We don't want to stress these animals out. Things to watch out for: if you have a fawn in your yard and it's walking around crying all day, you see visible injuries, it's laying beside a female doe that is deceased. And by beside, I don't mean you saw a deceased doe 3 miles back and you assume that this baby belongs to it. I mean beside a deceased doe. Um, is the baby lying with its legs extended to the side? That usually means that, something is off and we might need to intervene. So if the answer is yes to any of those, then reach out to GWN or a licensed fawn rehabber or both immediately for guidance. Don't feed the fawn any kind of milk, water, Pedialyte, anything unless the rehabber instructs you to do so. Because again, feeding them improperly can cause them to die. Also, we ask that you keep dogs on a leash when possible. When you're going to parks or you're going hiking this spring, this summer, please keep your dog on a leash. We get so many calls about fawns being attacked by dogs in parks, and the dogs were off leash, they caught scent of the fawn, and it doesn't usually end well. So please, 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 when you can, keep your dog on a leash, and let's try to minimize those types of injuries. Sarah, what did I miss about fawns that you would like to add?
I think you covered it. Great job. Save the spots for the ill ones and don't, fawn nap anybody and you should be good.
Absolutely. Because when I said that rehabbers can have hundreds of animals, I didn't mean fawn rehabbers. They do not have
Yeah,
enough space for 100 fawns. So,
we did
Sarah, how
not.
many did you rehab last year?
We had 51 come through our program throughout the season. And I think at the highest point we had 30 at one time. And we had fawns in every spot we could find in our barn to keep them safe. And
Yes.
many of them were perfectly healthy and probably didn't need that
Mhm.
spot. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
And sometimes by the time that they're brought in or by the time that people call us, um, the fawn is very sick, and it turns out that it's because the person's had it for 3 days and they've been taking care of it, and then unfortunately they don't reach out until the fawn starts to crash. And then poor Sarah or whoever the fawn rehabber is kind of left to pick up the pieces and try to stabilize that animal. And many times it's too late for that to happen. So truly, it's urgent that you get them into care as quickly as possible so that they could start getting them hydrated if they truly are orphan. Sometimes we try to reunite them if we think that they have been fawn napped. We have a short time window that we're able to try that in, but we definitely don't want to take up spaces for the ones who really need it for those dog attacks. For the ones that are truly orphan, we want to make sure that those guys have a place to go. Squirrels have multiple nests. They relocate their babies frequently for various reasons, maybe because of a threat with a hawk nearby, maybe because a tree company is out, whatever. But they will start moving their babies one by one from the nest If a baby falls from a nest, but it doesn't have any injuries, then we suggest trying to reunite it. We would ask that you put it in a box with some grass or, a blanket, something on the bottom, and keep it up off the ground. So a cat's less likely to come along and bother it. Put it up in a tree nearby where you found it, and just keep an eye on it for a couple of hours and see if the mom comes back. Squirrels are fantastic moms. They're going to come looking for their babies if they possibly can. She's not going to retrieve babies after dark, so we never attempt to reunite after dusk. If the squirrel is cold, we want to bring it inside, put it in a box with a heating pad on low under the box to try to elevate its body temperature. At this point, you should be in contact with a licensed squirrel rehabber so that they can walk you through the steps. Also, if a juvenile squirrel has approached you, like the size of the two that are cheesing for us in that crate, they need help. If you have a squirrel run up your leg or nibbling at your shoe, it's trying to get your attention because it needs help. It doesn't mean that it wants to come live in your home and become your pet. It just means that it needs help. So please reach out to a rehabber. Again, do not feed. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Don't feed it. Just make a call, get in touch with us, and we'll get you in touch with someone close by who can help. If you find an injured turtle in the road, we ask that you move it safely to the side it's facing when it's walking. Move it off the side of the street and let it be on its way. Turtles live in a very small radius their entire lives. Most are about 1 mile. Please don't take them home. Put them in a safer area that's a few miles down the street because there's a pond. We want to keep them in their domain. Now, if it's a snapping turtle in the middle of the road, you want to proceed with a little more caution. You never want to pick up a snapping turtle by its tail because it can damage their spine. There's lots of ways that you can look up online on how to pick up these guys. There's something called like the hamburger method where you slide one hand over the top, one under the bottom. They're pretty heavy though, so I don't feel like super confident with that method. You could grab it by the sides of the shell. My favorite trick is I will take out one of my floor mats of my car, grab him from behind the back of his shell and pull him onto the floor mat. And then I just grab the floor mat and slide him off the side of the road and let him move off from there. So all of my fingers are intact. That trick has worked for me. But if it's been hit by a car, we definitely want to get it help. Just because it looks like, oh, that's not good, it doesn't mean that he can't survive. We have seen turtles survive the craziest injuries. And worse yet, we have seen some of them suffer through some tremendous injuries. They can live for days, nearly split in half. So we don't want them to suffer. We want to get it to someone that can make the determination on whether or not they can fix it or if it needs to be euthanized, but we just don't want it to suffer. So we put a picture in here of a case from last year. You can see the cracks at the top near the neck, the front of the shell, and then you could see the updated pictures of how he ended up looking. And this little guy made a full recovery and was able to be released. And this was a very large snapping turtle. He still had a little fight in him when he got there, and he was taken to Aware. And Aware is fantastic, and they did a great job of taking care of this turtle. Another great turtle rehabber here in our local area is Chattahoochee Nature Center Wildlife Rehabilitation. So we depend on those guys a lot. Snakes. It is illegal to kill venomous snakes in the state of Georgia. If you found a snake and you're not sure what kind it is, there's this awesome Facebook group page called What Kind of Snake Is This Georgia for a quick and accurate response. Their admins really field the messages on that page, and they don't let just anyone respond. You have to like really know what you're talking about on there. So that's going to be your quickest way to get an accurate response. You can text us and ask us. I'm pretty confident with my snake species, but I would say go to this page just for a faster and 100% accuracy response. Um, every snake that you see is not a copperhead, and we do not have cottonmouths this far north. We can argue about that in the chat later if you want. But every species that you see is not a copperhead. They're not all venomous, and it's actually illegal to kill the non-venomous snakes in the state of Georgia. They all serve a purpose. King snakes, which are non-venomous, um, they actually kill the venomous snakes. So we don't want to kill every snake that we see. Some of these guys are needed. They're taking care of rodent control, and they eat lizards and different things. They all serve their purpose. If you don't want it outside your home, I get it. If you're scared of snakes, I get it. You could spray it with water to get it to move along. You don't have to kill it. Please don't chop its head off and then send us a picture and ask us what kind of snake it was. Most snakes are killed due to misidentification. People will post a picture and say, "Oh, I just killed this cottonmouth," and they just killed a water snake that was completely harmless. So ask for advice before you make a decision there. I know you're worried about your kids, you're worried about your pets. I totally get it, but if at all possible, try to spray it with water, get it to move along. Mothballs don't work. That's myth. We see snakes curl up next to mothballs, try to eat mothballs. The snake, the snake stuff that they sell at Home Depot, that's like, snake away and stuff like that. It doesn't work either. The best way to keep snakes out of your property is to control the population of whatever they're coming for. So if it's mice, if it's chipmunks, if it's an abundance of moles or whatever, then you want to control that, and then you're going to control the snake population. Tiffany, any questions yet?
The only question we had that I would maybe say to just hit on, and then the other one we can wait, is just someone asked about fawns and curled ears, and that being like the immediate interact indicator that they need to get involved. So I
Sarah,
kind
do
of
you want to answer
responded
that
on it.
one?
Sure. It really cannot be the only way to decide if a fawn needs help or not. I've seen that posted everywhere. When I started, I probably believed the same thing, but we have had fawns that have come in and they have had curled ears, and they will be the healthiest, hydrated, and well off fawns, but they just got brought to us because of the ears. So I don't think that is a very good way to determine if they need help. Again, all the things you listed, um, the way they're laying, dead doe, or something like that are kind of the best ways. I would not rely solely on the ears.
Yeah, and if you're reaching out to a fawn rehabber or GWN, you could certainly mention if its ears are curled as one of the indicators of what you're seeing, but it's not like the sole thing that we rely on.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but and it's can be for many of these species, but fly strike. Are you going to
Nope, I
talk
don't have
about
it in
that?
my deck. Go ahead.
Okay, well, if you see any of these animals, mostly mammals, with um with little what sorry, I have kids hanging out in here. Um with little rice looking white pieces on them, it's usually fly eggs that can turn into maggots quickly, and that animal definitely will need help.
Yeah, that's always fun to see. That's not a good sign. So yes, for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. And that's any animal. If you see that, then it's going to need help. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so birds of prey. I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit so we have lots of time for Q&A at the end. Birds of prey, owls, hawks, osprey, eagles, falcons, vultures. All of these birds are federally protected. Get help immediately. Never give food. Don't put water in their mouth. Don't give them chicken nuggets. You just want to get that animal help. If you found a baby raptor on the ground, we need to get it back in the nest. We also make makeshift nests for baby raptors to try to reunite it with its parents. We can walk you through how to do that. Usually it involves a laundry basket that we drill holes in the bottom of and some bungee cords to wrap it around the tree. And we put it back up close to mom and give her an opportunity to come back and start feeding the baby. But before you do that, call us for advice if you're not sure if that baby needs help. Again, it could be a fledgling, and we don't want to abduct the baby. We also don't want you to go through the trouble of creating a makeshift nest just for the baby to jump right back out of it because it's a fledgling. The picture on the top right, that little dude, that a great horned owl, he didn't like me coming to mess with him very much. He had taken up residence on someone's back porch in Roswell, and he was hanging out on their back patio furniture. And every time they took their dogs outside, the dogs tried to interact with the owl. The owl didn't like the dogs didn't like the owl. So they called and asked us if we could move him. We saw his parents in the trees nearby from the moment I got there. I spotted the mom. I think she disliked me as much as the baby, but I was able to pick up the baby, go put him on a branch out in a tree close to the nest, and we were both able to go about our day. But um, we want to assess each situation, see if they truly need help. We prefer not to have to handle them and relocate them, but if they're in a situation where it's dangerous for the animal or for your animals, then we could certainly, have a conversation about that and see how it's best to proceed. But these babies, best chance of survival is with the parents. So we don't want to abduct these cute little fluffy guys that you see on the left and bring them home and take care of them for a couple of days and then give us a call. Chances are they're not going to make it. We really need to get them to Chattahoochee Nature Center, Bell's Ferry. There's quite a few places that rehab birds of prey, and we want to get it into care as quickly as possible. The dude that you see in the middle, that hawk, he was famous last year. He was on the news because he got tangled in fishing line and was hanging above a lake, I believe about 90 feet in the air. And we called a local tree company, so shout out to Top Tier Trees, who came out in full force to help us get this bird down from where he was. And he was cut free, and he was taken to Chattahoochee Nature Center for rehab and release. So he was one of our famous patients from last year. If you found a fully feathered baby on the ground, again, it's likely a fledgling. It's learning how to fly. Just like songbirds, they spend a few days on the ground with parents watching nearby. Parents are taking care of them, they're bringing them food. Trust me, you don't want to go try to approach that owl if you don't have to. They make this really loud clicking noise at you to let you know that they are not happy about you being in their presence. It's a little intimidating for something that is so dang cute from afar. Just call for advice if you're not sure. And if you found an injured adult bird of prey, text us details, photos. Just because it's on the ground doesn't mean it's hurt. It could be what we call mantling, where it's standing over a meal that it's eating. If it's a vulture, it might be digesting the last meal it was eating. We want to get some pictures, see how close you can get, not scaring it, but just kind of walking towards it, see if it moves, that sort of thing. We might have you test some things out, and then in a photo, we can tell if we see a wing droop or anything funny, any injuries before we try to intervene and take it into care. Canada geese, these guys, the most common thing that we get calls about is angel wing, which is the bottom right photo where you see those wings kind of sticking out, all weird, looks like sticks or something. The wing may appear to be broken, feathers pointed in opposite directions. This is a result of a nutrition deficiency, usually because they are eating bread as a primary part of their diet. People like to go out, take their families, feed the ducks and geese bread. This condition of angel wing is not curable, and the bird is no longer able to fly. He can't migrate with his flock. He is only able to walk and swim at this point. If you see this, we suggest letting him be because it can't be fixed, it can't be rehabilitated, and we'd like to give him a chance if it's still mobile, if it's still able to walk and swim, and it's able to get around okay. Never feed waterfowl bread. Another common injury that we see is fishing lines and hooks. They get stuck in wings, mouths, feet. These animals are also federally protected. It's illegal to move their nest, their eggs, or harm these animals in any way. We see horrible things that are done to Canadian geese because people think that they are mean. Cars swerve at them, they hit them, they shoot them with bows and arrows. It's horrible. They are usually trying to protect their nest or trying to protect their mate. They keep the same mate for life. And when they lose their mate or they lose one of their young, they mourn like humans. It is very, very sad to see. So please don't just assume that the goose is being mean. He's being protective of his family, just like you would likely be. Domestic ducks, they are not equipped to survive in the wild. We get dozens of calls about ducks shortly after Easter, actually. And people decide to take out their kids' Easter pets and dump them at local lakes and ponds. Don't buy live animals as photo prop. When you go into Tractor Supply and you're going to pick up dog food, don't decide to pick up a few ducks also, raise them in your backyard, and then toss them in your neighborhood pond a few weeks later. They're not equipped to survive it. They need shelter at night. They are dependent on you for food. They are not wild ducks. So usually, people have to be sent out to collect these ducks, and they end up in rescues waiting on people to adopt them who actually have the proper facilities to take care of them. So it's a sad thing. I hate seeing Tractor Supply put them out every year because I know it's a temptation for people. They mean well. They don't know that these ducks can't survive in the wild. But it's very, very sad. They get eaten by snapping turtles and hawks and owls and, all kinds of things because they don't know how to take care of themselves. They're domestic. Rabies vector species, these are going to be in the state of Georgia. The animals that are deemed as rabies vector are raccoons, foxes, coyotes, bats, and skunks. Any animal can have rabies. In fact, in the state of Georgia recently, there have been cases of kittens and cow. There was a cow that had rabies in Georgia, which was a little wild to try to envision. It's false that you only see these RVS species out during the day if they are sick. I hear it all the time. Oh my God, there's a coyote out and it's daylight. It's obviously got rabies. It's not true. These animals hunt during the day, especially when they're feeding their babies, because that's when their food source is available. Their primary food source is mice, bunnies, songbirds, squirrels, little creatures, and all of those animals are out during the day. So it makes sense that these animals would also be out in the day hunting, especially when they're trying to feed their young. So if you see them, don't just assume that, oh my God, this animal's sick, it's out here, whatever, and it needs to be contained and eliminated. That's not the case. You can always call us. We're happy to help walk you through or put you in touch with someone. You could contact DNR for advice. If you see one that, again, is behaving erratically, walking in circles, having seizures, anything like that, then definitely do not try to contain. We see most cases of distemper instead of rabies, but it's best to contact your local RVS licensed rehabber. There's not a lot of them. But we do have rabies vector licensed rehabbers in the state of Georgia or DNR and ask for advice on what to do. Again, one more quick story. That picture on the bottom left of the goose. This was a goose that had a horribly broken wing. The wing was actually inverted, and it was inside out, upside down, terribly broken. We had this very, very kind person that had called us about it, said, oh my God, what do I have to do to help this bird? They're federally protected. There's very limited resources to help with these birds. And in most cases, they're not going to do surgery. They're not going to be able to help the animal. So a lot of times we have to make a decision if we just leave it and see how it does, or if it needs to be euthanized. These decisions aren't easy. We don't ever take any of them lightly. We're talking to rehabbers. Tiffany and I don't make these decisions solo. We're consulting with the rehabbers and saying, what do you think in this situation? What do we do? And letting them guide us through this. In this specific situation, before we could even make a decision, the wing actually fell off. It just came off. And she worked at the marina, so she kept an eye on this bird, and we made sure that it didn't get infected in any way. He completely healed. His name is Uno. He has one wing. He stayed with us through the winter because he can't fly, and now he has a mate, which is shown in this photo. So it was a super cool story that just, kind of touched our hearts to see that he recovered, and he's thriving out in the wild, even though he only has one wing. So coyotes and bears are the next one. Um, Coyotes have a really bad rep because people assume that they're out hunting your pets at all hours. When you hear that yipping in the night, I'll see people on my neighborhood site saying, "Oh my God, they're out hunting, they're killing somebody's dog right now. I can hear it happening." They're actually communicating with other coyotes when you hear those sounds. Coyotes usually hunt individually unless they're traveling with their young or their family. They hunt quietly. So, I mean, you think of it, if you have anyone in your family who hunts deer, they don't get all camoed up and put black under their eyes and go sit in a tree stand and then blow a whistle to alert the deer that they're there. It's the same thing with coyotes. They don't go out yipping and calling to each other when they're hunting. So it's a common misconception that that's what you're hearing. Their primary diet consists of rabbits, rodents, possums, berries. They will go for your chickens. And I'm not saying that they won't go for your pets if they're left outdoors, but please keep your cats indoors, keep small dogs on a leash, keep them close to you. If there's an opportunity there, I'm not saying that they're not going to take it, but I'm just saying they're not out purposely hunting your animals. They don't realize that it's your pet. They're just trying to survive. And that vicious, mean looking creature that there's a photo of in the top left photo, that is actually a baby coyote from last year. So, next up is bears. They live in all areas of Georgia. They will venture out with their cubs, which are about the size of probably a black lab puppy when they first venture out. They're little bitty things. They are vicious. They have very long claws, and they will tear you up. Don't ever interfere with an adult bear and their cubs. Please don't stand at the base of a tree, try to take pictures, try to pick up a cub, and never ever feed them. A bear remembers their food source for up to 10 years. Once a bear relies on humans for food, the bear is deemed dangerous and it will be euthanized. The same applies with cubs. They do not relocate bears in the state of Georgia, and cubs are not rehabilitated. Once they have had human interaction, the only choice is for the animal to be euthanized. So the common saying is a fed bear is a dead bear. Also note that mama bears leave their cubs for short periods of time. They'll usually put them up at a tree, much like deer put their fawns in an area and tell them to stay put. So they leave them for longer durations of time as the cubs get older. It doesn't mean that they've been orphaned. Please don't interact. Secure food and trash. Lock your vehicle, and don't post their locations all over social media and be like, "Oh my God, look at this bear at 123 Sesame Street," because everyone's going to go out to 123 Sesame Street looking for these bears, wanting to take a picture. And last year we had people standing at the base of a tree behind a fire department taking pictures of cubs. If mama had walked up, it would have had a very different outcome. and it would have been the human's fault, not the bear. So please, please, please don't do that. It puts the animal in danger. It puts people in danger. Lock your vehicle. I have a friend that was up in Tennessee. Cher, if you're on, I'm sorry I'm talking about you, but she was up in Tennessee, and she had a bear that actually broke into her minivan, all because one of her kids left a little pack of gum in the back seat, one of those little plastic containers of gum. And the bear smelled it from outside, was able to somehow hit a button on the outside of her car. The sliding door opened on the van. The bear got inside, the door closed behind him. Imagine their surprise when they came out and there was a bear inside their car. The bear ate the car from the inside out. Removed the roofing, removed the seats, the dash, the center console. He was locked in there for a couple of hours, and it actually totaled out her vehicle. So if you're going to Tennessee, if you're going places where you know that they're a little more common, you want to make sure you take the food out of your car and make sure that your vehicles are locked. The bear did survive, just so you know. DNR came along, the vehicle, they were able to unlock it, release the bear, and all ended up being well, except her van, of course. So couple more quick things. I'm almost done, and then we'll go into Q&A. In Georgia, we also have herons, bobcats, groundhogs, otters, minks, skunks, armadillos, moles, and a variety of other animals that I have not named tonight. We have rehabbers who work with each and every one of those species. If you call us because you find a nest of mice, I promise you we have someone that will take that nest of mice and raise it and release it safely away from homes once they are ready. What we do not have, and I'm sure this is going to spark some debate, but we do not have mountain lions. They're not black panthers. We don't have wolves, except the one that someone released here, and it's already been contained and taken away. And there's no Bigfoot that I've seen any photographic evidence of. So we get a lot of arguments, people telling us that they saw a mountain lion or a panther. Last year, someone sent us a photo of Black Panther running down 575. It was a house cat. So but look, hey, we're always open to being proven wrong. So if you have a photo of a mountain lion, a panther, a wolf, or a Bigfoot in your backyard, please send me a photo and I will retract my statement happily. Don't bring wildlife inside your home and snuggle. Don't allow your children to hold it, feed it. Sometimes an animal is very calm. That's because it's in shock. But these animals have fleas, ticks, lice, mites, all kinds of little critters on them that I promise you don't want inside your home or especially on your children. Use gloves when handling them and only handle them when necessary. The picture of the beaver up here in the top left, he was in a rehab facility and he was getting ready for feeding. Sometimes you might see rehabbers where they're not using gloves, the animal's been treated or whatnot already by that point, so they might not be using gloves when they're holding it. They're always going to be using gloves when they're handling RVS. But when you yourself are doing it, just keep yourself safe and just make sure that you're protecting yourself. And again, it's illegal to raise any kind of wildlife in the state of Georgia, as we talked about before. Ways you can help our native wildlife: please don't litter. Things that are littered on the ground, if you throw some piece of food, some piece of a hamburger, something out of your car window, there's going to be a mouse or a rat that comes along to pick up that food. An owl might swoop down to try to get the rodent and it gets hit by a car. So we've got a chain reaction of events here, all because you tossed something that you thought was just a harmless piece of food out of your car window. Balloon releases: what goes up must come down. Animals get tangled in the balloon string. They also consume deflated balloons. Rat poison outside is fatal to our wildlife, not just the rats, because animals eat those rats. As a matter of fact, rats are, very common with a lot of animals. It's on their menu. So once another animal consumes them, they are going to die as well. Most commonly with birds of prey, but with foxes and other species also. The same applies with lead ammo and fishing tackle. Um, it happens a lot with eagles specifically, where they go in and they eat animals that had lead tackle. You know, they might get a fish with lead tackle in it, and it's fatal to those animals if not treated very, very quickly. And usually by the time they start showing signs, it's too late. If you enjoy fishing, please clean up broken fishing line. Every year we lose hundreds of animals tangled in fishing line and lures. It gets caught around their wings, their mouths. This picture that's shown here was a heron in Harmony on the Lakes. We got a late night 10 p.m. call that this heron had a hook stuck in his wing. There was a fishing line connected to the tree above him. So he was locked into where he was. And his foot was also stuck to another piece of fishing line in the water, and he was completely immobile. By the time that we got the call and got eyes on him, he had already drowned because he had quit fighting and he had given up the fight. And the next morning I went out and was able to retrieve him from the water, but it was simply because this fishing line was there hanging and was not removed, and it was completely preventable. Glue traps, they're evil. I don't know how else to say it. Animals chew off their legs trying to escape. They catch everything from mice to snakes, songbirds, owls, hawks. Snakes can survive on a glue trap 10 days before it starves to death. It's a horrible, agonizing death. They can be removed if you get in touch with someone quickly enough. Again, call a rehabber. Um, we'll jump in and try to help. We might give you tips and tricks on what to do to keep it from getting more tangled before you get it help. Sometimes we will sprinkle flour on the trap to keep it from getting more of their feathers stuck in the trap or things like that, but never, ever, ever try to pull it off because it could remove the skin, it could remove the feathers. And let your pest control company, like, I don't want this at my house. I don't want this in my garage. I don't want it in my outdoor areas. I think I've trained all of my neighbors on this because I've had to go remove a few myself. So we just they're really terrible for animals, and we just hate to see animals suffer this death. I have a recap here. I'm not going to go through all of this because we've already really talked through it, and we're starting to run short on time. I do want to do a big shout out to the app Animal Help Now. This is a free app. Please download it on your phone. It's not just for the state of Georgia, it's for the United States. You could put in what species you need help with, and it will give you a list of rehabbers in your area based on species. The only thing to note is that not all rehabbers choose to be included on this app because it's a major increase in call volume. There's not really one inclusive list. DNR has a list of rehabbers on their website. Again, not all licensed rehabbers are on this list. GWN has a list that we try to consolidate from all places. So we usually have someone somewhere that we can get you in touch with, but the season fills up very quickly. Once those babies start rolling in, especially with the abductions, once space is full, it's full. And that's when you're going to see GWN put up the sorry, we're temporarily closed. Because if we don't have anywhere to send animals, then unfortunately we get to a point where we're not able to help. So please help us in making sure that we're not taking animals unless they really need to be helped. Our phone number is here. We would ask you to text us a photo of the animal, your location, what you need assistance with. And remember, never, ever, ever offer food, milk, or water to wildlife unless you are instructed to do so by a rehabber. We have some information on this slide, which is everything's going to be saved here from tonight's webinar. Our rehabbers do not get paid. A single baby squirrel can cost a rehabber $150 to raise from newborn to release, which is another reason not to abduct these animals. It's very expensive for the rehabbers that are raising them. They do it out of the kindness of their heart. They want to help that baby squirrel and they will find a way to make it work. But let's just, be cautious and make sure that the spaces are being used for the ones who really need it. Some of them have just hundreds of animals in their care. If you're interested in becoming a rehabber, we can certainly get you in touch with the right people and direct you to the resources that you need in order to do that. If you're interested in becoming a volunteer, you could visit our page. We have a QR code here that you could scan to go directly to our website. We send transport requests through an app, and you could accept the ones that you're available to help with in your area. So it's completely up to you how many you want to do. If you're interested in becoming a hotline volunteer, God bless you. Please email us at the email listed here and follow our page on Facebook at Georgia Wildlife Network. And follow along with our adventures and different cases. And we try to do a lot of educational posts and just, let you guys know what's going on in the area. Tiffany, what questions do we have? What did I miss? Any rehabbers on here who want to speak up and add anything? Any questions?
We only have 4 minutes, so we're a little short. I will say that we've had some great rehabbers show up, so I'm super excited about that and seeing some familiar names. We got an update on our PVC pipe deer, that it's very healthy and individuals in the neighborhood have seen it, so that was super cool. I don't know that the individual knew that we knew about the deer, but actually put a comment that they've been in contact with DNR, and that the pipe shows to have flexibility as well, and there's some space around the neck. We had a really quick question about how often do snakes bite people and children in Georgia? If we can make that one super fast, because I thought it would be great if we could just do a little spin on piebalds, because we didn't have that in the presentation. I just thought of that. So how often would you say that a snake bite typically occurs, and where does that usually happen?
Well, I would say that most snake bites occur because you were messing with the snake. Usually you get bit by a snake because you're trying to kill it. If you're leaving the snake alone and staying out of its space, it can't bite you. Occasionally you might get bit by accident while you are in the woods. You don't see it. It's in the leaves. Most snake bites are not going to be fatal to humans, even to dogs. If a dog gets bit by a copperhead and you get the dog to the vet, they're usually able to treat that. Now, rattlesnakes, that might be a little bit of a different scenario there, but we really do not have a lot of cases that we are made aware of with snake bites, with venomous snakes, where it is anything that ends up being fatal. So, again, most snake bites happen while you're trying to kill the snake. So if you're not trying to kill the snake and you leave it alone, you have a much better chance of not being bit by it. Tiffany, do you want to talk about piebalds?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about piebalds. So the reason why piebalds came to mind is when we were talking about bears and seeing them, and people like to post on social media, and they typically put a location. So those animals that you don't see often, there's rarities, which Heather, you have to remind me, what is the percentage of whitetails that end up being piebalds? I think you said it was like 1.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's like, yeah, it's like 1%. I mean, it's tiny. It's a very, very small percentage. Sarah might be able to answer it.
No, she's got a house full of kids, so we'll roll with it.
Okay.
I'm honestly not sure on the piebald
Small
numbers.
percentage.
Yeah, I only had one come in last year.
I put Heather on the spot with a very direct number. So feel free to fact check us on that or use Google. But I think the big part is that piebalds can be born with deformities. So we do ask that you just kind of give us a heads up and let's assess. But the big part is that when you see one of these rare deer, that you're not posting them on social media, you're not putting a location, you're not putting a cross street. They're trophy animals to some individuals. And so we really try to protect wildlife as much as possible. So if you see it's in your neighborhood, Facebook page or a community Facebook page and there's a piebald, you'll see us comment immediately, just asking people. They can share the photo, just don't share the location. They're
Yeah.
pretty sensitive animals.
And it doesn't mean that we're going to come out and snatch that animal, but we might ask questions and just make sure that it's healthy, because piebald deer, it is a genetic defect. And a lot of times they do have deformities. We see different things that could be wrong with these animals, and we just want to make sure that they are good, that they are healthy. A lot of piebalds don't make it to adulthood because of their deformities. So if they're healthy, there's nothing wrong with them, then great. Let's just keep it off of social media so a hunter doesn't go and hang them on his wall. We just want to keep them safe and make sure that they are healthy and in good hands and all taken care of. They're beautiful creatures. We also had it was a solid white. I don't think it was albino because it didn't have red eyes, but we had a white raccoon come in to one of our rehabbers last year or the year before. Super cool. If you see something like that, though, again, go ahead, let us know. A white raccoon in the wild's probably not going to survive because their coloring, and this is true with all animals, all wildlife, their coloring is designed to help them camouflage in the area that they live. A white raccoon sticks out like a sore thumb. So he's probably not going to have a great chance of where he's at. And, we might see if we could try to get him into some type of facility, Yellow River, or some type of sanctuary where he can live out his days without having to worry about something taking him out.
Perfect.
What other questions?
We don't have any other questions. We did get a quick request for armadillos. I said that we'd just do a post on Facebook. I put a list of some of the rehabbers that we use and work closely with. So I would say kind of check them out, look up their pages, follow their stories. They take donations. We're early in the season. So just become familiar with the network of rehabbers you have in your area and the resources. All of them are just really great people. I really have to say that, and willing to teach, which is pretty awesome as well. So, but I have put a couple of links in the chat, and we just thank everyone for your time tonight. This was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I will say, as much as we talk about like GWN hours and whatnot, and our traditional hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. could vary if we don't have coverage. Also, if you contact us at midnight, it's pretty likely one of us are going to reply. So hours don't really mean much to us. If we're online and we see that you have an urgent issue that you need assistance with, you're going to get a response. A lot of times one of us are up, we don't sleep much, and we're gonna do what we can to go ahead and direct you to a rehabber. Now that rehabber may or may not be awake at that hour, but at least you can go ahead and send them a message or reach out first thing in the morning to go ahead and start the process and get them where they need to go. Do we have any rehabbers that want to add anything? Let me extend that real quick before we wrap up.
We're all quiet. We've got Melanie Hare, we've got Alan Gibson, we've got Nancy. I'm calling some people
And
out.
you guys don't want to talk. Come on, Melanie, Alan, let's go. Let's talk. What did I
Jeanette
miss?
from Misty Meadows in Milton. So we've had all kinds.
Oh, awesome. Welcome. You want to talk about some ducks? Anyone?
I think.
Did they hang up when we called them out?
No.
Well, I will say this, ladies, twice it's been written that our folks would like to see you back on the webinar. So it sounds to me like I'm going to give you a moment to breathe and then we get you back on here to
Let's do
wrap
it.
up. Yeah.
As you could tell, we have a lot to talk about. I was trying to cram it
Yeah.
in. It took longer than I thought to get through it. So we could definitely do a part 2, or if there's specific things that people want to hear about, let us know what that is, and we can do a follow-up session on those topics.
So this will be really important for everybody to fill out the survey, and that gives Heather and Tiffany a great opportunity to put together the information that you'd like. On our website is going to be this webinar, recorded webinar, and then also we're going to put their website, which is where you can find how to volunteer, how to get involved, how to be a transporter. If you're looking to become a rehabber, you can take those classes, you can connect with rehabbers this way. So there's lots of great information on their website if you're, cooking dinner and just feel like you want to scroll through. So
Thank you so much,
yeah.
Jen, for having us, for letting us do this and be a part of this. Again, a huge thank you to our rehabbers and to our volunteers, the ones who joined, the ones who are not able to join. We cannot do this without you. The rehabbers are the unsung heroes here, the ones that are, really out there doing the hard work. We're getting the animals to them and getting them routed, but God love them, they're awake at all hours taking care of these animals. So we are so appreciative of each and every one of you and thankful we get to work with you guys.
Yeah, you're amazing.
here.
Thank you for being on. Stay tuned for next month's. If you're still on here and you're listening, it's going to be about fish, pond, and pond ecology and how to maintain your natural space for the wildlife that feed, drink, and live around your pond.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, stay tuned.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Thank
Sounds great.
you. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.